I never thought I would be sitting here, telling my story like this, but here I am. My name is Emma Rodriguez, and this is the story of how my life changed completely. I went from being one of Manhattan's most successful corporate lawyers to wearing hijab in the same courthouse where I once argued powerful cases. This did not happen overnight. It began slowly, in a way I never expected. From the beginning of my career, I built my entire life around logic, evidence, and winning. I believed that if something could not be proven in a courtroom, then it did not matter. Feelings were weak. Faith was unnecessary. Truth, for me, was something written in law books and supported by facts. At 32 years old, I had reached everything I ever wanted. I was a senior partner at Morrison & Associates, one of the most prestigious law firms in Manhattan. My corner office overlooked Central Park. Every morning, I looked out at the city and felt proud of how far I had come. My BMW was fully paid off. The engagement ring my fiancé David gave me cost more than most people's yearly salaries. I had money, respect, power, and security, and I believed in nothing I could not prove. The morning of March 15th started like any other normal workday. I was sitting in my office, reviewing merger documents for the TechVision acquisition, while sipping my double espresso. Two large tech companies were merging. There were some legal and regulatory hurdles, but nothing my team could not handle. I had argued cases like this many times before. I felt calm. I felt confident. I felt in control. Then everything changed. I heard my assistant Marcus call out from outside my office door. His voice sounded tense. "Emma, we have a problem," he said. Before I could even ask what was wrong, he continued, "Mr. Patterson just collapsed in the conference room." My heart dropped. James Patterson was the CEO of TechVision. He was the most important person in the deal. Without him, the entire merger could fall apart. I rushed to the conference room as fast as I could. When I arrived, my team was standing silently around James's body. He was lying on the floor, completely still. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but there was nothing they could do. James Patterson was dead. A massive heart attack, sudden, final. The next 24 hours were pure chaos. Without James's signature, the entire merger was in danger. TechVision's board was panicking. The acquiring company was threatening to walk away from the deal. Hundreds of employees were afraid of losing their jobs, and I was stuck in an impossible situation, trying to save a transaction for a man who was no longer alive. That was when I met Sarah Patterson. She came to the law firm the morning after James's funeral. Her eyes were red from crying. Her hands were shaking as she held a folder of documents close to her chest. She looked completely lost. I assumed she was there to discuss money, contracts, or legal matters, but instead she asked a question I was not prepared for. "Will someone help me understand what my husband believed in?" she whispered. I never knew. We never talked about those things. Her words caught me off guard. In my world, people did not ask spiritual questions. They asked about legal obligations, money, and contracts. But there was something in Sarah's voice, something raw and broken, that made me listen. I told her the truth. I said I did not know. I admitted that I was not qualified to answer a question like that. As tears streamed down her face, she said something I could not forget. She said she felt like she had failed him. They were married for 15 years, and she never knew what gave his life meaning. That conversation stayed with me. Over the next week, as I worked day and night to fix the legal mess left behind by James's death, I kept thinking about Sarah's question. What did he believe in? Why did that matter so much now? For the first time in many years, I began to wonder if there was more to life than winning cases, making money, and collecting success. And that was only the beginning. That question did not leave me alone. Even while I was working, even while I was talking to clients and preparing arguments, Sarah's words stayed in my mind. What did he believe in? I had spent my whole life chasing success, but I had never stopped to think about meaning. For the first time, I felt uncomfortable with my own answers. The pressure of the TechVision case kept increasing. Every hour mattered. The board wanted answers. The acquiring company wanted certainty. Employees wanted security. And I was running out of legal options. When the judge dismissed our motion to move forward without James Patterson's signature, I felt something I had not felt in years: fear. I had one final chance to save the deal, and I knew I was close to failing. My legal arguments were strong, but the law itself was not supporting me. Precedent was against me. No matter how hard I tried, every path seemed blocked. That night I stayed alone in my office long after everyone else had gone home. It was nearly 2 in the morning. Manhattan outside was quiet, but my mind was loud. I was surrounded by legal books, case law, and notes spread across my desk. I felt tired, frustrated, and strangely empty. That was when I remembered something Sarah had said earlier, almost casually. She mentioned that James used to read old books. She said he believed they contained wisdom about business and fairness. At the time, I did not understand what she meant. But now, with nothing left to lose, I decided to look into it. I began researching late into the night. I did not expect much. I had never studied Islamic law. I had no background in religion. But something pushed me to continue. I started reading about Islamic commercial principles, not as a believer, but as a lawyer searching for logic. What I found shocked me. In an ancient Islamic legal text, I discovered a principle dealing with legal succession and the continuation of business obligations after death. It explained how commercial agreements should continue fairly when the main person involved passes away. As I read, my heart started racing. The situation described in that text was almost exactly the same as the Tech Vision case. The framework was detailed, balanced, and deeply fair. It protected businesses, employees, and obligations without injustice. It was not emotional, it was not unclear, it was logical, structured, and ethical. In many ways, it was more complete than what I had seen in modern American corporate law. I spent hours translating those ancient principles into language that would make sense in a modern courtroom. I worked carefully, making sure my argument respected American law while explaining the wisdom behind those Islamic rules. By the time the sun began to rise, I knew I had found something different, something powerful. The next morning, I stood in front of Judge Margaret Thompson. She was known for her strict attitude and skeptical nature. She did not like creative arguments. She liked facts and law. As I presented my case, I noticed something unusual. She was listening very closely. She was not interrupting me. She was not rushing me. When I finished speaking, the courtroom went silent. "This is remarkable, Ms. Rodriguez," she finally said. "These principles of fairness and continuity address issues our modern commercial law has overlooked." Then she said the words I will never forget. "I am granting your motion." The case was saved. The merger moved forward. Tech Vision's employees kept their jobs. Everyone congratulated me. Everyone said I had done something brilliant, but inside I was not celebrating. I could not stop thinking about where that wisdom came from. I realized that I was no longer researching Islam as a lawyer looking for legal arguments. I was researching it as a person searching for answers to questions I did not even know I had. The more I learned, the more familiar it felt. Justice, honesty, caring for the poor, fair business practices, responsibility of the powerful toward the weak. Islam gave my beliefs purpose. As my interest in Islam grew, fear slowly entered my heart. I knew this path would change my life. When I told my mother about it, she reacted strongly. She warned me about my career, my reputation, and how people would judge me. She reminded me of everything she had sacrificed so I could reach this position. I could hear the disappointment in her voice, and it hurt deeply. Things became even harder when I talked to my fiancé, David. I hoped he would listen and try to understand. Instead, he called it a mistake and said I was destroying my future. He told me I was no longer the person he fell in love with. That sentence stayed with me. I realized that the life I had carefully built was starting to fall apart. That night, feeling completely lost, I called Sarah. She listened calmly and reminded me of something her father used to say, that real truth appears when every choice feels difficult. Her words brought me quiet peace. I understood then that fear was not a sign to stop. It was a sign that I was standing close to something real. My shahada was quiet, but its impact was loud inside my heart. Only a few people were there. Sarah stood beside me, offering silent support. My mother did not come. David had already left. As I spoke the words that made me Muslim, I didn't feel excitement or fear. I felt peace. A deep calm settled over me, something I had never felt after winning a case or signing a big deal. For the first time, my heart felt steady. Life changed quickly after that. I started wearing hijab to work, and people stared. Some clients walked away without explanation. Others asked questions, curious instead of judgmental. I was afraid at first, but I noticed something surprising. My work became more meaningful. Judges listened more carefully. My arguments focused on justice, fairness, and responsibility. I wasn't just fighting to win anymore. I was fighting to do what felt right. It took months for my mother to speak to me again. When she did, her voice was softer. She said she didn't understand my choice, but she could see that I was at peace. That meant everything to me. Today, my career is smaller, but my purpose is bigger. I help people build honest businesses and fair lives. I lost the future I once planned, but I found something greater. I found truth, direction, and a home for my soul.